This is a show about the path less taken, a show about a rocky path, a path of patience and persistence in equal measure. What you ultimately find down this path is passion, a passion for live electronic music. Welcome to Hardware Road. And this time we welcome David Habfeld. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Adrian. Thank you.
To your house?
No, welcome, Adrian, to your place.
To my place.
This is your place.
This is my world. This is... Now, a disclaimer for everybody is that David and I actually know each other, which is why we're joking around from the get-go.
Okay, I met you. Yeah. I met you a couple of hours ago.
Yeah, times by a few years. Not that many years, not as long as you've been playing, obviously. But so when was?
Well, I consider you a close friend.
Is the first time we met? Do you recall the first time we met?
I think I was buying a module from you.
Yeah. See, now that's what I would have thought as well. But I don't know whether I've told you this or not. But
you've been coming into my house late at night and sniffing my underwear.
That was before we met. No, so in the party days when I used to obviously party back in the late 90s, early 2000s in Melbourne, I was out the front of a club for some reason, I don't remember, and I remember meeting this bloke, and we got chatting, and I'm like, what are you doing? And you're like, I'm going home. And I'm like, what are you doing going home? Like, we've just, the party's in full swing. Like, where are you going? He said, I just played. I'm going home. And that's how I knew it was you. That's how my memory clicked, because I'm like, it looked like it was you, because you had played that party, and this is what you still do now. You play and you go home. So we had met all those years ago, but obviously informally, but yeah.
So are you saying it's a good thing or a bad thing that I go home?
Do you go home?
The reason I don't hang around too long most nights is because when I've performed, I'm spent mentally, physically, financially, spiritually, sexually, all those things. No, but in all seriousness, it's like it's drained me. Yeah. And I know that people, even just friends, want to have a conversation and want to socialize, and it's like I don't actually, I've used all that energy to perform, and it's almost like I think I would feel rude because I wouldn't be much good.
You're not in the mood for conversation. Yeah, I understand. I mean, I haven't played out a lot, but the last time we played out, we all played, Marcus included, for 150 BPM, and there was 8 acts, and I was part of setting that whole thing up, and then I had to hang around and do some sound engineering after that and man the booth. And it was sort of a blessing that I had to man the booth. Not that I didn't want to speak to all my friends and catch up with them and all the rest of it, but it was sort of, I got to just sit back, relax, and just concentrate on the sound instead of...
Totally.
Yeah, so, completely understandable. Yeah.
It's not that I don't want to speak to people. No. It's just that I'm kind of spent. I've just done something that I really love, and it's
exhilarating. You when you finish, you obviously have the heart is racing. The adrenaline has been used up.
Totally. Yeah. And the more I do this, then the more it not takes a toll, because that's the wrong word. But you can tell the least I speak after a show, the more energy I've spent.
Yeah.
Or the more energy I've put into the show.
Yeah.
So it's a good measure. And I think it's also the way that there's kind of a separation or segregation between being an audience member and being the person working and performing as well. Now, I don't mean that's not coming from an elitist point of view. It's just that, I've done, I'm doing a job here.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. A job that I love. But I need to, re-energize.
Even if you're, let's just, even though, you're playing live as well, so it's not like you're DJing. Not that DJs don't spend, like their own energy or have, or also have that same feeling. But
you're being polite, and I'm going to interrupt. You're being polite, but seriously,
it is a little, but it is quite. You still get adrenaline. Let's go back. Speaking of DJing, I want to go right back.
You've got some
before I knew you.
Because you haven't told me any of these
I
questions.
haven't told him any
No.
of the questions. All right, so
He's trying to throw me, which is good. I like the challenge.
all right, so I want to go right back. So you were a DJ. A lot of people might not know this because you've been playing live for so long, but you were a DJ at one point, and you weren't a techno DJ, but you were a DJ, right?
Well, I don't.
And so what I want to ask
I
you
have
about,
DJ'd is the way I'd like to phrase it.
where you told me you were playing it was in St Kilda quite regularly.
Well, when I was part of Acid Jacks, yes, we
Yeah.
were a DJ duo. Yes,
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
you're DJing, right? So what?
and I did DJ prior, or as I was evolving, the live show in Honeysmack. Everyone DJ'd. It's kind of what you did. If you bought records, you kind of DJ.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I only had a certain amount of records that perhaps others didn't have. It was all unique to us. So sometimes we DJ'd, but the premise was I never want to be a DJ. That was the whole thing.
Oh, so this is what I wanted to ask you, because a lot of people, obviously, especially these days, people will be a DJ and then they'll move into live hardware performance. But sounds like for you, the two things were sort of happening at once. And was there a point where you went, okay, no more DJing, this is what I do?
It was, I never wanted to be a DJ. There was never, it wasn't a pursuit at all. It was, I had records because that was the predominant format, and CDs, but CD technology wasn't great for DJing with. But I never wanted to DJ. It was just, that's how we listened to records, and that's how electronic dance music was predominantly presented.
Yeah, well, you had to, that was the format it was in, and that's when, okay,
And even, because I thought...
Was that on tape back then as well, basically? CDs only just started coming out, if I believe. Correct. But you wouldn't have had a lot of CDs. In Australia, probably easier to get techno on records than it was to get on CD.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
But I somewhat associated DJing with hip-hop DJ.
Okay.
And I thought...
scratching and...
Totally.
Yeah.
And hip-hop DJs, that is a skill, art, and all of the above.
Yes.
So, my disdain for DJs is not with hip-hop DJs, because I'm in awe of great hip-hop DJs. And I guess that was the first instant where I thought, I'm not a DJ because I don't have those types of skills.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah, fair enough.
And I thought, well, DJing in the kind of house music techno world was just, it wasn't a challenge whatsoever. You are pretty much...
Well, you still had to beat match records back in the day.
Okay.
I mean, that took a skill. Like, but personally, I tried it myself many, many moons ago when my brother and my brother-in-law used to DJ, and I'm like, well, this isn't for me, and I want to do something different anyway, because everyone wants to be a DJ, so I'm going to go in a different path. But I still appreciated the skill of doing that. And if you were doing it with 3 records instead of 2, and if you were mixing those records, the more I didn't recognize a track, the better the DJ. Because they were mixing the tracks. They weren't just like playing one song and then putting the next one on.
Well, that's about programming as well. So further to my point is that DJing within the house and techno paradigm is really beat matching and programming and some other, other small... Oh, I start that again.
Take 2.
I think with house and techno, predominantly it is beat matching and programming is an important part, and having those records. I mean, that's where the word house music comes from, and having a house sound. And they were mixing, Euro disco with disco, American disco, North American disco. But there's not much more to that form of DJing. These days, a little bit different, I know, before everyone wants to punch me through the screen. But I think hip-hop DJing is probably way closer to what I do live because it's an improvisational art form.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with house and techno DJing, these days, well, actually, even when I started doing this whole electronic dance music thing, it wasn't challenging. It's like, okay, I'm not trying to big note myself whatsoever, but okay, I could beat match. And really it was the music that was printed on the vinyl that was the important part, whereas hip hop is transforming disco breaks and other music into something new. Now, you could argue that today, DJs are using stems and there's much more sophistication with the technology.
Yeah, it depends how you DJ. Like, I'm not saying no two DJs are the same. No two artists are the same ever, but
most DJs, I'm going to say something controversial, most DJs are the same, because these days, the proliferation of music and the access to music, again, it's not challenging in any kind of creative form, or very little, I should say. Now, of course, the caveat is that there are some fantastic house and techno DJs, what have you, but for me, that wasn't inspiring. I didn't want to be a DJ. I thought it was.
Let's go back to. We're getting sidetracked, aren't we? So let's go back to, because this show's about you at the moment. So what I want to know is the original question is that point is when you went, okay, I'm going to go full hardware. This is what I do now, and yeah.
Well,
when was that point? Like 30 years ago?
Well, to tell you the truth, I didn't really know. I just didn't want to be a DJ. I thought being a DJ in this realm was... Okay, I've said it 3 times.
You go back again. I want to know about your hardware.
Yeah, but this is the whole point. We didn't call it live. I didn't know what the name was.
Yeah.
But I knew, and it's improvisation with hardware. But I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to, how did I term it? I wanted to perform the music in front of people and make it in front of people.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to play back music that was already pre-prepared and predetermined.
Yeah.
I guess. So it wasn't like, there was this moment in time. It was like, I'm not a DJ. I've got records, and yes, I can beat match and I can present that music in that way, but...
So you went out and how did you find out? So there wouldn't have been a lot of people playing in that way back then. So how did you go and find out, okay, what do I have to do then to do what I want to do, to play live? So how did that transition? That's what I'm talking about. So, because it was really early on in career, there wasn't a lot of people doing it. There wasn't a lot of hardware to choose from. There's a plethora these days. So that's sort of what I'm asking. So how did we come into this art form for yourself?
Well, when I started, there wasn't computers.
Yeah, for a start, yeah.
So there wasn't computers. And when computers came into the fore with music making, they were just MIDI sequences. So there was no manipulation of audio. And computers weren't portable, and computers weren't affordable. Well, weren't they?
Semi-affordable.
Semi-affordable, but they weren't... It's not something that you would take to a show.
No.
So the hardware... The limiting hardware that we have, the 808s, the 909s, the 303s, they're already conducive to playing live with.
Yeah, but so how did you find out you needed these tools to play that? You obviously did your research. How did you find out all this stuff? Because, for us, once again, for our audience, a lot of people haven't even grown up without the internet. This is the time before the internet. So we had magazines, we had TV shows. Now, not a lot of TV shows in Australia, for example, would be playing any sort of techno. So magazines would have been maybe one format which you could find out these things.
Yeah, let me just add to that. Let me set the scene. So there's no TV. Yeah. There's no TV that is, because there wasn't a name to this. This is electronic dance music, contemporary electronic dance music evolving.
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't even have a name.
Yeah.
It
only just started finding out its roots in the UK in the early 90s, late 80s.
Well, the late 80s, the Summer of Love, 1988. So we were going to clubs to listen to what was called house music, I guess. It was just electronic dance music. And it didn't start to splinter come into the 90s when it became more commercially viable.
So you would have heard all the records and stuff, though. And so how did you find out how the records were made? How did you find out you needed these tools?
Well, we didn't. This is the whole thing. There's no research. There's a couple of magazines, I think I still have them. You were reading like music technology magazines, but they weren't pitched to people like myself making this music. They were pitched to real musicians. I have no formal or traditional musical training or background whatsoever. All I knew is that I wanted to manipulate sound. I was going to uni at the time, studying media arts, and I wanted to make films. And in the film studio, not the film studio, but the sound studio, there was kind of synths and some rudimentary samplers and some reel-to-reel and some effects. And that was my introduction to the studio.
Yeah, okay. So university helped that transition.
Totally. So we were reading bits and pieces about some people starting to make this music, but there wasn't a lot. And I think that's also part of not much technology being available either. So the pool of, like you're saying, the pool of hardware was very limited as well. And remember that a lot of the gear that early electronic dance music producers and artists were using was vintage back then because it was being thrown away.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they were going for cheap. It was secondhand cheap. The bass player went, "What's this bloody? This is a piece of shit TBO 303. Well, throw it out. Like, sell it for $200. Get it out of here." Like, yeah,
totally. So it was a little bit of trial and error. It was a little bit what you read. It was also then familiarizing yourself with the sounds that I was kind of making at uni. This is kind of like similar to what I'm buying. But we didn't have access to all this knowledge like in
what we do now.
Days.
Yeah, I know.
We certainly didn't think that we were experts by any means.
So let's we've talked a lot about that. So I want to just, while we're on this hardware and discovery kick, and we're talking about now, as we can probably see, you can't see on the radio, but there's a lot of modular in here now. And I met you. This is how we met. Basically, is David came over and bought a module off me, and so
I spoke English though. Didn't I?
8 years now, I think. This is the 7th or 8th year anyway. So that we've been into this format. So my question to you about the modular format,
are you still my
Eurorack?
Friend? You're still my friend though.
We'll decide after this interview. Is how do you think? Well, firstly, number one, right? So number one, how has it changed your approach to your live sets? Number one, question one, and question two is how do you think it's had an influence on the growing the live electronic music scene around the world? This is all in regards to modular and Eurorack.
So how has it changed my approach, and how has it impacted the general approach?
Yeah, so two separate questions. Right?
Okay, so for me, I feel that everything that I've been doing since I started has always been modular, because the premise of what I do is I see the studio as an instrument. So I don't see, of course, the 808 and 303 and 101 and all those things are very important as instruments, but I see them more as modules within the studio instrument. So the mixer, the effects units, they're all part of that studio instrument, and they're all just as important as the boxes making sound.
So it hasn't changed your approach, but has it given, I mean, because you've got a lot of it here, right? And you play with modular as part of your set all the time now. So what does it given to you then? Does it given anything new to you? Has it expanded anything within your learning process or any of those things?
It's allowed me to get my hands way more dirty and into, if we think of finger paint, I can put my hands inside the paint or inside the clay and move things around. With the limitation.
Well, talking of clay, but that's what's great about modular, right? So most of the time, all these boxes are fixed, right? So you can only do so much, and they have a limitation.
Correct. Yeah.
Whereas you can buy as many modules, depending on your budget, But you can buy the modules that you need, and you can wire them together yourself. So you can make your own anything, a synthesizer, electronic instrument.
Well, totally. That's everyone knows that the beauty of modular is that you can design your own instrument as well, or your own performance environment.
You're making a little tool for yourself. So I suppose you make like little. I don't know. It's like little. It's not drum machines, but it's probably like you're making little machine drums almost.
Yeah,
I would probably say that'd be. Sorry, I had to think about that for a second, but yeah, you're sort of creating a little machine drum for yourself. So it's manipulative little drum synths and stuff.
That's true, because everything tries to sound like a 303, or it's a plethora of extra percussion.
Yeah.
Now, whether that moves into tonal or not is almost irrelevant to me. I'm just building a density of rhythm and sounds.
Yeah.
And constructing and deconstructing.
Yeah.
So modular gives me like almost a little micro city or a micro modular as part of the larger studio instrument.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it.
And you can change that every time you play. That's what's great about it as well. It's like, okay, because you can swap instruments in and out. You can have a plethora of instruments, but with modular, you can swap the modules in and out and get different sounds from that as well. Like,
totally. And I what was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say. I think, what I wanted to say was I resisted going to modular synths.
There's a few people like that.
Quite some time.
Mm.
And what's really interesting is that the modern modular synth from Dieter Doepfer came about because he made the 404, which was a 303 clone that people wanted more functionality out of. Yeah. So he started to create modules to expand the 404 module.
There was a rack 3U. Was it 3U?
No.
It was 1U.
1U,
Yeah.
MS 404.
Yeah, I think I've seen it already.
And so it's interesting how, my whole approach has been Acid and 909, 808 and 303, and then modular synth, the contemporary version of modular synth, is born out of trying to expand the sound of a 303. So it all, comes back to a 303. Exactly. Exactly.
So the second part of the...
How has it impacted...
how do you think? So it's a personal question, obviously, or from your perspective.
I think the proliferation of affordable music technology has allowed greater access or wider access to performing and making electronic music.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call modular affordable, though. Although it's getting more affordable than it used to be, but... Yeah.
I still think modular is extremely affordable. I think there are many options, second-hand market and all that.
Oh, the second-hand market's good at the moment, yeah.
I'm going to cough. And the thing about modular is that you don't have to have a large amount. You can just have,
you can have a
couple of modules,
case,
and it can really change.
Well, you only take a 6U case with you when you play live, so.
Yeah.
Can you hear that through the? All right, good. That's someone banging in the background, by the way.
So I think that modular is accessible.
So how do you think it's changed, though? Do you think it's changed anything? Because to me, from my perspective, I'll give you my perspective, and I see it sort of influencing people, especially the younger community, even though, because I've had a few of them say that to me, they would love to get into modular, and it's sort of something that intrigues them and draws them towards hardware, but they can't afford it right now because they're in university or whatever, But it seems to me to be drawing more people away from the computer format, the DAW, and dragging them out and bringing them into because it's something that it's sort of like a programmable hardware almost,
Yeah, and that's the thing I think is kind of weird, because you have lots of people who are interested, and I think music technology brands have a lot to account for here. a lot of the conversations around why I would get into modular or how I'm using modular is still a very prescriptive way. Now, I have no problem with hobbyists, because lots of people who buy technology predominantly are hobbyists. There's only a small amount that are professionals. And nothing wrong with that, and I'm not trying to be elite.
I fall under the hobbyist category, yep.
No, you don't.
Come on.
No, you don't, because, don't,
Well,
that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, we'll have it.
And what I hear mostly, what I hear is that people are buying modules and building a modular case, and they want to have all this control. And I'm like, what the fuck would you need all this control on a modular synth? There's this thing called software. Just do it in software if you want that much control. The beauty about modular synths is that it can be generative, and you have to give up I feel you need to give up some control to the machine to see the happy accidents.
Oh, yeah.
And people are still buying gear based on how it sounds and how I want to control all of this. And what a lot of people don't understand is that the beauty of new music comes from being creative, having risk, and seeing what comes of it. Improvisation in all art forms is one of the greatest drivers of original new work. And as an improviser, I'm not worried about if I know a module inside out or what this is doing. I mean, okay, kudos to people who are right into that. But I'm in the business of making music, and I'm trying to entertain myself and keep myself happy. I would think that it's like people who are right into DAWs and know it inside out. I mean, that's a fantastic skill to have. I'm not sure where the creativity comes from, but they're not happy people.
Let me agree with you for a second.
I'm happy.
Let me agree with you for a second in the fact that, it's something that I noticed about myself and probably why I keep buying modules, is
why do you keep buying modules, Adrian?
I'm telling you. Yeah, I'm about to explain.
Okay, I'll wait. Right,
patience. Is that sometimes the best sounds I ever get out of a module is when I first get it, and I don't know what I'm doing with it.
Correct, exactly. Like you think of the accidental heroes of electronic dance music. Again, the old Roland gear or what have you. People didn't know what they were doing. You think of acid house and the early pioneers of acid house and Pierre, and they didn't know what they were doing. They had no manual.
Yeah.
But they created this amazing sound. Today, as a reflection, go back to the wider impact, everyone's a fucking expert. Everyone's an expert. When I started doing this, we didn't see past next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't know what this was becoming. We weren't sure of ourselves. But all we knew is we just fucking love doing this, and that's what we're doing at this moment in time. Nowadays, everyone needs to have a resume, and here's my resume. Am I allowed to buy this module now? Or and then asking people constantly. I know there's great communities, but people just asking other people who are not qualified or informed to tell people or advise people a whole lot of things, not just modular synths. I'm saying a whole lot of things. So. Naivety.
You're getting the opinion of everybody on the internet's not going to help you with your.
That's right.
Yeah, you've got to sort of go and discover it yourself, and you're never going to. Because there's a plethora of choices out there at the moment, it can be overwhelming. But just So I suppose the advice there is just find something, even if it's someone that you admire that plays. Okay, they use the rhythm, the electron rhythm. Just go and buy it then and discover it for yourself. Don't ask 10 billion questions about it. Just go and buy the instrument and go and find out for yourself if it's for you or not.
But I think that's but I think that's a characterization of hobbyists. Professionals will just buy something, they will try it, they'll try and make it work. If it doesn't work, they'll move on. They'll kind of move on.
Yeah.
But it's hobbyists who perhaps have a tight budget. Oh, I want this and I want it to do everything. And it's got to have a blue button and a green button. And I want to control it with my foot and my toe. And, can it work in the sun? Can it be mobile? And it's like, oh my God. It's like the music's not made like that. Right? So what's lost?
Let me.
Hang on.
All right. Sorry. I just wanted to grab that while you were there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What's lost is naivety. And naivety is a great force for creativity. Everyone just knows everything, but we're all fucking boring if you know everything. I don't want to know everything.
Yeah, you don't want to. Yeah, I've been trying to. I mean, I know you have we have a mutual respect, and you have a mutual respect of me because I stupidly just go on my own path as well. I don't copy. I hate copying people. I hate making sounds that are the same as everybody else. I get bored really quickly.
That's why you're not a hobbyist.
As soon as I like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to make a track that sounds like this, and I start down that road, and I get bored really quick, and just go off on my own tangent. And maybe that's because I'm a bit mental, or maybe who knows why. But that's what I do. But this is where I wanted to catch what you were saying. Sorry, I tried to interrupt you because I wanted to catch what you were saying about that very thing about the creation of music in itself, right? And I wanted to talk about making tracks because a lot of the music we listen to is pretty much made on DAWs these days, right? There's probably hardly anyone out there that actually makes music on hardware, edits it a little bit, masters it, and puts it out there, right? So it's pretty. And your method. I'm not saying it matters how. I'm just saying that's the predominant format at the moment. That's all I'm saying. Nothing wrong with that. Just nothing. I'm just saying but that's not the way you work, is what I'm getting at.
No, and I don't work like that because my background comes from hardware, hardware sequences. 2, I don't have any traditional musical skills, so I can't play a keyboard. I can't keep in time.
But when you hear a Honeysmack track, you are hearing you jamming, and it's just a cut of that jam.
It's a moment in time.
Predominantly. Yeah, that's what it is. Like, there's no preconceived. It's like I'm going to make this for this track and I want this sound and I want that, or I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this in here. It's all done in the moment. You're not worrying about, because I mean, I have friends that tell me like, oh, I can't finish a track. It takes me months to finish a track. I'm like, why? Why does it take a month to finish a track? Just jam it out. You're done. It either works,
they're hobbyists,
or it doesn't work.
They're hobbyists.
Oh, look, these guys are not. I'm not.
No, I'm sorry. I mean it with.
I mean, some of these guys.
I don't mean to be nasty,
but some people will use a DAW and they make their tracks and they can bang them up and as well. The
line in the sand between a hobbyist and a professional is that a professional will say it's done. They will stop and say this is done. A hobbyist is always working on something because they don't have the limitation of time. They don't have the limitation of I need to put this out. Whereas a professional needs to keep moving and release or perform the work. A hobbyist is always working on something. That's why a lot of music technology, going back to it, is it's marketed that way. And people have this construct in their head that it has to be perfect. Now, going back to the whole computer-based, making music on a computer-based system, and another grand statement coming from David Haberfeld, which is most people I know who work inside the box are not happy people. They're not happy because it's a horrible way of making music.
They're not happy. You're saying they're not enjoying actually making those tracks. Like there's very little enjoyment. Or
I'm still waiting to see these.
It's more work than it is fun.
I'm still waiting to see the waves of people say, "How awesome is my mouse and my screen?" It's just for me. Okay, I'm being silly, but for me, that's painful. That's complete pain. Yeah. For me, when I make music, I'm in the moment. And if it's captured there, great. Well, many times, as my manager Kevin always goes like, "I'll do something on Instagram which I've just captured on my phone. Did you record it?" I'm like, no. It's like, well, that was fucking awesome, you know. So it's, and that's the whole beauty of being naive and being transient about it.
It's mixing in it's capturing the moment. And see, this, I think we've talked about this before, is that because we've talked about multi-tracking and we've sort of moved in that direction, but the multi-tracking is not so that we can stop and manipulate every sound post-jam. It's so if there's a minor mistake, you can fix it, or some, you know... Yeah.
I've never made a mistake in my life. No, sorry, hang on, that sounds arrogant. What I mean is, a mistake for me is that I haven't captured it, but I can't go back. This is the whole thing, you know, where I...
So the multi-track is more for, say, if somebody says, oh, David, we want to put that track out. Have you got the multi-track? You know, here's what I've got. Here's this, you know.
Well...
Work with that. That's all I've got, instead of just having the stereo recording.
Well, more so, I'm just using a stereo recording.
Yeah, more. You're still more.
Now, I used to have a large Mackie 24-channel, 32-channel.
I remember that, these desks.
You know, lots of separation, and I never made music like this.
Yeah,
we had a desk down to 2-track into a DAT tape. That was it. Yeah, and you either had it right or you didn't, or whatever right was. You know,
but there's something about having to manipulate those sounds as well. I think that. I mean, if somebody's trying to work in that way, I feel like you will lose the essence of what you were trying to capture in the first place anyway.
Correct. I couldn't agree with you more, because it is about, you know, it is not just the balance of the audio engineering aspect. It's not just about the quality of the sounds coming out of a particular box. It is everything. You know, it is performance, it is sound, it is movement over time. And having, you know, the most amazing quality sound captured by your 120 kilohertz, you know, 700-bit file doesn't mean shit if there's no soul, or the track is not there, or that piece of music is not there. Now, I know you talked about tracks. I don't ever make a track. I don't even perform a track. I am even more so that I want to put a caveat on my recordings and say, this is not for DJs. You know, this music is not for DJs. Because I don't make tracks. I don't perform tracks. It's funny how people say, oh, that track that you played. I said, I played a track. I think what they mean is they've recognised some sound or a group of sounds. And fair enough, but the way in which I work, perform, and make music is that it's one elongated piece that has kind of moves and ebbs and flows. But I'm not thinking in terms of tracks, and that's also how people who work on a computer, they're constrained by this kind of old antiquated thought of there's a start and there's an end. My God!
I've been told by a lot of
experts,
people who would DJs or whatever, like, experts. Oh no, you need to have, you know, so many beats per beginning, then it's to the breakdown, and then I'm like, look, I'm go by feeling, and then if it's not that format, bad luck. Like, you know,
bad luck to you.
I'm not here to make a music for you. I'm here to make a music for me.
That's right.
If I entertain myself, all well and good. I think I'm still my own biggest fan. When I listen to I enjoy my music.
Well, most people need to, most people need to appreciate that, and that's what when I teach people, it's like you have to be happy with what you're doing, because your happiness is not going to come from other people, because other people are going, you know, music and art is subjective, and we get a lot of people are bombarded with, like you're saying, you know, that you need to do this and you need to do that, which is just, it's all just fucking
what genre should I be playing? What should I make? You know, what route should I go down? You go down the route that you end up going down when you play and you make things, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is the way I sound. This is because I'm enjoying it.
But that's the problem.
That's what I'm making.
But that's also the challenge.
Whether it falls under a genre or not, I suppose, should be secondary.
Oh, totally. But that's also the challenge of traditional music theory as well. It's a set of rules,
and it might be harder for trained musicians then for us, isn't you saying that? Like, because I'm not a trained musician either, so I'm just playing what I want to hear and creating what I want to hear.
Totally. People who are trained in that way on an acoustic instrument or understand music theory, I mean, kudos to them, but it's a set of rules, and a lot of people find it hard to break. Like I don't have quantizers at all. I don't quantize anything. And I've worked with very talented traditional musicians, and they'll say, "Oh, that's not in tune." I don't know what that means. You know?
I was saying someone told me to kick. I think it was Ash. She's like, "The kick drum's not in tune." I'm like, I didn't notice that at all, but it sounds good to me.
That's right, and I think that's a superpower for many people.
Oh yeah.
But I think electronic dance music has its own traditions, and it doesn't need to be in the same frame as traditional music. And I really, and you find that music that uses that traditional music theory overlay with electronic dance music is like, okay, some of it's okay, but I find it completely and utterly fucking boring because all they're doing is they're replacing the sound of an acoustic instrument with the sound of something that sounds like that on a synthesizer, something like that. I mean, that's how Moog.
Yeah, that's how they were born. Yeah, that's how synthesizers were born.
Whereas Don Buchler was completely different. He wasn't interested in replicating acoustic sounds. It's like, come on, people are still thinking like it's the 1950s. It's like let's 2014.
Let's bring it. Let's
2012. Sorry.
So let's bring it into 29 and
29.
Anyway,
you've got beautiful skin.
Thank you, baby. So what do you? Let's move on from creating music with our hardware gear. What I wanted to ask you next is, what do you think the live electronic music scene needs? Right. Well, let me finish. Look, firstly, in our own hometown of Melbourne, Australia, this is where we are, and then in the
Iceland.
Iceland definitely needs some more live electronic music.
Oh, that's easy to answer.
Justin's already gone there.
We just need more people doing it. That's really all you need. More people do it, more art, the better art. It's quite simple. There's no magic,
but
when you have more people take up this art, or this art form, or this art approach, whatever you want to call it, then it will create a larger and bigger community.
Yeah, well, there's more.
And then good things will come out of it, which I think there's great things already. I'm not saying there's nothing good about this. It's great. This is all I've been doing for all of my adult life.
Well, I was having on, speaking of social media, I was looking, there's a Facebook page, Old Ravers, and people share flyers all the time. And I remember seeing an old Every Picture Tells a Story flyer, and there were two rooms. There was the DJ room and there was the live room.
That's right.
You just don't get that anymore. Predominantly every thing every party, every club, everything that you see is DJ dominated these days. It sort of went away almost.
Well,
do you think we're coming back into? You think there's going to be another?
I don't want to predict the future, but it's great that electronic dance music is part of. It's woven all the way throughout popular culture, which means there's going to be parts that one likes and one doesn't like.
Yeah.
Every picture in those parties in the 90s, they were fantastic. Has that gone today? I don't want to sound like an old person, but the things that you're referring to are coming from an audience perspective. If you take it from the mindset of an artist and someone creating, all that stuff is really cool. But I'm in the pursuit of something new. And people could say, well, David, what you're doing is not really that new. But I'll say, well, it is, because it's forever evolving. But anyway, that's that's a discussion for another time.
Yeah, let's get back to the scene.
But I don't think the scene is better or worse. It is just an evolution. And I'm giving you a politician's answer here. But I'm interested to see what will happen because of, high commercial and corporatization of electronic dancing. Something good will come as a complete reaction to that.
Let's move into the next question then. I sent you a message. Did you have time to see or watch
you sent it to me the other week about AI.
Yeah.
But that's about a label trying to leverage marketing,
But so the question is, so
read the question again. My thoughts about AI.
Do you think that that live performance may benefit from the proliferation of AI music, as people may rebel from the idea of AI music and strive to see more music performed live? Did you get that? Do you know what I mean?
When videotape came about, go back even further, when tape technology...
I know what you're going to say. No, the question is in the rebellion of the human race against something that may take away from our own creativeness and the appreciation of that creativeness.
Okay, so hang on, because that's what I have a problem with, right? If people think that AI is going to take away from being a creative person, then you are not a creative person. This is just another tool. And if I was to, you want my opinion on this, AI is really just another platform for corporations to get your money to advertise and to use their tools. So I don't think it's going to be, life-changing. Everyone's talking about AI. It's like, oh my God, have you seen, when it comes to creativity, have you seen the stuff that AI does? It's fucking boring. It's the same thing as buying another sample pack off another website. Now, if you are scared by that, then I'm sorry to say you need to question your work and your output as an artist. These are just tools. That's just like saying, videotape is going to ruin film. It's like TV is going to ruin cinema houses. That recorded music is going to ruin radio. That streaming services are going to ruin music. It's the same argument that some form of new technology is going to ruin something that's already been established. You know what? The real creatives are saying, okay, here's this thing called AI. How am I going to use it? Which I think is what you're saying. How are we going to use this to our benefit? Well, I can't answer. But what I find,
the whole question is to you about, and you're answering it perfectly. You're basically saying that all that will happen is that it will be used as part of the creative process.
Totally. I think that, if we talk specifically in the creative mediums, on the performing arts, maybe AI will get rid of some of those rudimentary tasks. Maybe. And that can be helpful. Okay? Maybe it'll just help streamline some processes or what have you. But I don't think it's going to replace creativity, and to assume that it will is absurd. These are not creatives who are saying this. These are just hobbyists and people who are just interested in the technology, which is interesting in itself. Hey, listen, I love Blade Runner, okay? So that's all cool. But I really don't think that AI is making us smarter. The whole thing is that technology just in general just makes us dumber.
Yeah.
You've seen the documentary,
Idiocracy.
Idiocracy. So that documentary is great about AI. What are some,
about the evolution of the human species?
Yeah, exactly. So I just think it's just mass hysteria, and the people who have the strongest voices with AI are these corporations, because guess what? They want some of your fucking money. They're not interested whether it will help or not. You know where to view this. Which is a good acid test for all this? The porn industry. Whatever the porn industry does, right?
We may have to blank some of this.
but the porn industry has always been a great uptaker of new mediums, of new media,
okay.
right? You've got videotape and things like that. So the porn industry, you may want to put this in or not, might be a good insight as to what they do with AI, you know? And I know there's some pretty malicious and nasty things going on. But you know what? There'll be AI to battle AI.
Yeah, let's not go there.
No, maybe don't put that in. But I'm saying,
especially the AI is battling it out in the porn industry. We just don't want to go there. What if we want to do?
But I just think, you know, I think,
so you basically think it's going to be a toy? Because let me, for the audience, just say that because there's basically the first AI artist was signed by Warner, I think it was. But it's from the video I watched, it wasn't completely AI anyway. There's still a lot of human manipulation to create this supposed AI generated
the point about
art,
AI,
you know.
The point about AI, as I understand it, and I'm not an expert, is that it requires data from a human being in order then to create
at the moment
output.
Yeah.
No. Humans are not disposable, okay? Not just yet. And believe me, when it comes to
there's
music,
probably some leaders of the world who think we are disposable, but we won't get into politics.
But it really is the old adage: people make music, not technology and not machines. And if AI is one of those things, then it's not making music; it's just making something that sounds like everything else. You know? And I really think AI is, you know, when it comes to electronic dances, you want to bring it right into scope. Electronic, you know, DJ should fear for their lives, right? Because this will be a real acid test for DJs, right? Yeah. I also think that, you know, sample banks and, you know, sampling. It's like, okay, we already have access to every sound imaginable on the whole planet.
Don't get me started about samples and sample banks.
But what people don't have the sound that comes from their physiology and their performance of their machines, be it modular, whatever it may be, whatever they have in front of them.
So let's change tact again and go right back to your live performance when you perform live, and you like to perform amongst the people down on the dance floor, as close as to the audience as you can possibly be, right? So tell us why that is. Okay,
let's talk about DJ. So DJ, no, because
okay, all right.
Here's the academic answer, because when disco music and DJing came about as a result of disco, because disco music couldn't be performed live. It was large ensembles, lots of different musicians. It was a studio-based music. So the way in which disco music was presented was via the DJ. And the DJ was someone who was hidden. So it shifted the paradigm from a band on stage.
You would go to the nightclub and you would be dancing, but you didn't know who was actually putting those records on. You would just like, I like that song, and you would go on the dance floor and dance to it. Like, you didn't care.
Correct.
Who was playing the song.
But it shifted the paradigm of watching performers on stage, performer on stage, to the audience and the dance floor being the focus of the activity.
Yeah.
Right? So like you're saying. So
shifted from that to the DJ.
Yeah, from the artist to the audience.
Yeah.
So the DJ was out of the way, was unseen. They were just a utilitarian.
Yeah.
Right? Then the myth of the DJ comes about because of electronic dance music, and then where everyone's watching DJs. I'm going to say this once again. Watching a DJ. To me, that is just like, it's bizarre. Anyway, let's talk more about me.
That's what this show's about. You're the guest.
So I guess, and I get asked this quite a lot, and I did a PhD on it and all those things. So me performing on the dance floor is a return and respect that it is the dance floor and the people dancing who are the focus.
Yeah.
Sure, I may be the artist creating that music, but it's a feedback loop.
Yeah.
So I need to feel and see their response in order to feed my performance and vice versa. So it's constant. And you've been to shows where there hasn't been that many people or the vibe is not there, and my performance is a bit kind of lackluster because I require the audience. When the audience is humming, then I will be humming.
Yeah.
So that's why I insist on performing, and because I am an improviser, it's really important. If I'm up on a stage, and there's some events and festivals where I can't be on the floor for technical or safety reasons, OH&S, again, I have to position myself so I'm close to almost touching the audience because they are part of the performance. I'm not separate to that. So it's vital. They are part of the instrument that I'm playing, and people don't have to know what I'm doing or what the gear is. They can see that their action causes a reaction, and vice versa. The action that I do causes them a reaction, and that's how I keep myself happy, right? Because it's all about keeping one happy, and I can see that they are loving it. I don't have to get them to fill out a customer survey form at the end of the show. I can see they've been rocking.
Yeah. Well, you're amongst them. Sometimes you even integrate them into the show. And,
that's right. So if I was,
you're giving out your cheese squares and so.
But if I was, but if I was on,
getting the pizza to be passed around.
Exactly. But if I'm on stage, if I'm disconnected from the audience, then I might as well DJ or put a recording of my music on. It's not. So it's almost like I'm going back to an old way of presenting music, which is you have to be there in order to experience it. Because if we don't record
every show's different.
That's right, because the gear is different, the modules are different, the environment is different, it's at different times, people are feeling good, feeling bad, whatever it may be. I've come on after someone that they liked, they didn't like, wasn't playing the right music, whatever it might be. There's a trillion things, everyone's an expert. But the point here is that every single show is different. And so if you don't come to a Honeysmack show, I'm not going to be able to replicate it because the other challenge is trying to record it as well. For 30-odd years. Oh, did you record the show? Never comes out.
Yeah, the few times I have played out, there's there is a few people that have said, I would love to hear the recording of that. And I'm like, well, it's not going to sound the same. I've recorded live, even recording my live jams, it never sounds the same, especially because you're in different rooms, different acoustics.
Just change the wording. It's not that it will sound, it's how it feels. Because you won't have the experience of people responding to what we're doing in that moment. That's the part that the recorded medium can't capture. That's why I have a weird relationship with recorded music as a result of this. It's hard to capture that energy in a recording.
It is. I'm probably getting better at it myself in the studio to capture that moment of when I'm jamming it out but it's never it's never going to say. The only person that's going to feel that recording the same, which is why I enjoy listening to my own music back, because I made it, and I know the feeling I had when I was making it, and that feeling comes back because I listen back to what I made. I'm like, I really enjoyed this one. I remember what I was doing and how I was manipulating and what I was. I really enjoyed making that track.
I'm probably the opposite. I'm not a big fan of listening back to what I did. No, because again, it was that moment in time. I can't. If I listen to it, then I may overthink it, and and I'm a big advocate of not overthinking music and performing. So I feel that if I look, of course I've listened back to my stuff, but I'm not a huge fan of it. I won't listen to it in any as an active listener or analyze it, and I'm not,
Oh well, I usually listen the best time. Well, that's another piece of advice for anybody. But I know people who make recorded music in general, like do not listen to it too much. Do not over listen to it, especially when you're mixing things down. Don't over listen to that, because and it's something that you're taught when you're in sound engineering as well, is to give your ears a break, to walk away and come back later. And that's when I listen to my stuff. So I'll release an album and it's gone, right? It won't be until like a year later I'll just go back and listen to it. So you got to have that big break in between, right? So gives your ears a rest, and then it's like a snapshot in time, and you can go back there,
Well, overthinking in the arts in general, particularly making music, is a complete killer.
Yeah.
Everyone I know, from an early career artist to a seasoned professional, it's a curse that creatives have. Everyone overthinks. Da Vinci said that the artist should be, the greatest critic of their work.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what we are. But it's a cancer. It will not benefit you whatsoever. And the simplest way, because the question I get asked all the time, so how do you avoid that? Set a time limit. 30 minutes, 60 minutes, you're done. It's very easy.
Yeah.
No one is listening to that 384th hi-hat that may have a low-pass filter on it at 50%.
Yeah.
No one gives a fuck but you.
No.
And no one is listening to that.
Yeah. So in saying all that, let's finish on the final question. So if there was one piece of advice you were going to give someone who was looking to get into making live electronic music and performing it and producing it, what would that be? Final question.
Well, I think you said it earlier on. It's just like, stop looking at what other people are doing and say, buy something that you can afford.
Yeah.
Put it together. Find your limitation. Because limitation is a great creative driving force. So just buy some shit, connect it up, play with it, and just keep recording and performing.
Yeah, you can play with anything. I started out in the RS7, the RM1X.
I started
with a little group box. Yeah.
That
was all we could afford at the time. We had that. It's like, I can't afford this. It was bloody expensive at the time, and that's all I could afford. Like even 303s back then and 909s were a couple of $1,000. So by the time I got into it in the late 90s, early 2000s, they'd already discovered that these were they were wanted machines. So
I was the what do you call it? I was endorsed by Yamaha for the RM1X. I was like,
that's the one. Yeah, RM1X. That's what I bought. That was my first box.
I was the beta tester, and I used to do all the trade shows for Yamaha. It was an endorsee of, I think that's what they may have called it back then or similar.
I still have it.
So
I still got it. And I would never sell it, because it's not worth what I get for it anyway. I get a couple of $100 for it. Why sell it? Like it's like it's a bit of history for me. But all right, thank you very much. We'll say goodbye.
I should be thanking you. You shouldn't be thanking me. I should be thanking you.
All right, don't thank you then. I take it back.
Thank you. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you.
And thanks for listening. And we'll move on to you playing in your studio and going to give us a demonstration.
I'm going to do an unplugged version for you.
Unplugged?
Yep.
Okay, so we won't hear anything.
Well, you'll hear me moving around, but...
Farting in the microphone, burping, scratching.
Well, I can't fart whilst I play. It's hard. Constantly moving.
Let's make those. That's what the modular's for, to make fart noises.
Exactly. Blippy, bloppy, farty noises. No, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for. I won't thank you.
Thank you.
Thank me. Thank me for joining me. For joining you.
Thank you.
Thank me for joining you.
Thank you, Marcus.
And, thank you, Marcus, as well for setting everything up and laughing at us. And we'll move into the live jam. Cheers.